Well, hello everyone. It's Sybil Starr, and I'm sharing today the astrology of the full moon in Scorpio. I'm calling this the Serpent and the Lotus, the Wesak Moon and the awakening of Algol, because the Scorpio new moon is what is called the Wesak Moon, which is when it is said that the Buddha received enlightenment. And of course, the Buddha's symbol was the lotus and how the most beautiful flower in the world grows in the mud. And so it is a real analogy for, I think, the Scorpio moon, as the Scorpio is so much about the transformation of self and how we transform the darkness and the mud in ourselves into our own divinity. And the story of Algol and the story of Medusa and her relationship to the star Algol. But anyway, I'm going to get a little more into that. So first, I want to show you the chart of the Scorpio new moon. Okay. Okay. All right. Hold on. It does not seem to be up. There we go. All right. So here is the chart of the Scorpio full moon. Okay. So it occurs on May 12th at 9:56 a.m. Pacific time. And so late in the evening that day. And so here it is. So the moon, the Scorpio moon is at 22 degrees, 12 minutes of Scorpio. It, of course, opposes the sun at 22 degrees, 12 minutes of Taurus. Now, the sun is conjunct the planet Uranus at 26 degrees, 59 minutes, which is activating the star Algol. And this is the last activation of Uranus. It won't come around again for 84 years, and I feel like it's very significant. All right. Some other things that are going on here, of course, let's see, we've got Jupiter is in conjunct the moon, okay, and square the nodes. And the nodes are in Jupiter's at 23 degrees of Gemini, square the nodes at 25 uh, Pisces and 25 Virgo. And we also have uh, Pluto, which is the ruler of the Scorpio moon, is in a square at 3 degrees of Aquarius, is in a square or a 90-degree angle to Mercury at 3 degrees 46 minutes of Taurus. We also have Neptune that has moved into Aries and is conjunct Saturn, even though Saturn is still in Pisces. Saturn will be moving into Aries on the 22nd of May. And we also have a Chiron Eris conjunction. It's actually going to be exact on the new moon, the Gemini new moon, but I will speak a little bit to that. All right, so let's talk about what all of this means. All right, so the full moon in Scorpio. So, the moon is our emotional body, and there's no sign really more emotional than Scorpio. That is Scorpio's actually evolutionary goal is to feel every emotion, but then to let go of it because Scorpio also rules the elimination system. It's important to allow ourselves to feel our emotions so they don't get stuck in our body, but to not hang on to the story. I've talked about this many times that, I can't remember her name. She was a neurosurgeon who had a stroke. She talked about being able that we actually feel an emotion for about 90 seconds. And anything after that is really the story around it, how we go over and over what happened and just keep reopening the wound. So, like I said, it's important to feel it, but then it's also important to let it go. Scorpio is a very psychic and intuitive kind of an energy. Uh, Scorpio is also one of the most deeply healing energies because it allows the old to die so that the new can be born. Scorpio has a strong desire nature, often very sexual. Scorpio is known for holding on to old grudges. So once again, it's this big piece of letting the story around the emotion go. All right. Scorpio is about the emotional complexity of human emotions, excuse me, of human relationships, and is very much a detective, likes to get to the bottom of things and absolutely reads between the lines. The shadow side of Scorpio is it can be manipulative, brooding, and suspicious. Now, as I talked about, it is the Wesak Moon, which is celebrating the Buddha's enlightenment and the potential for our own enlightenment. And it's interesting that it falls on the Scorpio moon, the most intensely emotional moon, and the Buddha was able to master his emotions as well as his mind, because our mind is really tied to our emotions. And it radiates peace, transcendence, and divine detachment. And as I said, the lotus is the symbol of the Buddha. All right. Now, this uh, full moon is also at 22 degrees. Scorpio is conjunct the star Hadar or Beta Centauri, which is the brightest star in the Centaurus constellation. And the beings from Hadar are deemed to be, this is deemed to be the star of divine love throughout the universe. This is a star of the goddess. And many Hadarian star seeds are here now due to the destruction of their own planet. Some say the movie Avatar was based on the story of Hadar. They were that kind of beings, totally in tune with Mother Nature and the Divine Mother. And Hadarian starseeds deeply feel the lack of love here on Gaia, and it is their sole mission to share the deep love they carry in their hearts. That's why there are so many here right now, so many Hadarian starseeds. All right. The Sabian symbol for this full moon at 23 degrees. We asked what the zodiac degree we would look at for the Sabian symbol is a rabbit metamorphosed, changed, we'll just get was metamorphosing into a fairy. It's kind of a hard word. Changed into a fairy or a nature spirit. This symbol shows ascension or evolution to higher states of being. And this is, of course, a magical time with the sun in Taurus when the nature is just so strong and speaking. So you might find yourself having some very magical experiences in nature and evolving into a higher receiving a higher spiritual perception. Okay. All right. Now, the moon is, of course, opposite the sun in Taurus. And as we talked about, Taurus sun likes comfort. It likes to be comfortable, calm, and is stubborn. And I didn't talk that much, or Taurus is very much also about the five senses, about, what tastes good, feels good, smells good. It is very much a sign of simplicity, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, versus the Scorpio moon, which is about the emotional complexity and psychological drama, okay, you could say. Anyway, but the sun is also conjunct the planet Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus, it likes to shake things up. And we might find that we are being pushed out of our comfort zone, and that it's about breaking of old emotional patterns that keep us locked into the same behaviors. We might find that things are changing rapidly with a need to stay emotionally balanced. Taurus is about being the calm in the storm, and of course the emotional storm of Scorpio, as well as Uranus shaking things up. We need to once again be like the tree whose roots go deep down into the ground while the storm swirls around. All right. There could be a sudden awakening to a truth you have always known. That feels right. It's hard, it's not logical, and yet it is true. We may feel like the earth is shaking under our feet. Many things are in chaos, but in the midst of this chaos and the breakdown of the paradigm, there are also some really good things happening. And to really be in tune, not just with the chaos, but with the new growth and the new directions and the things by the breakdown of the old structures, the new that is being replaced. Okay. Now, as I said, this is the third activation of Algol by the star Uranus. And traditionally Algol at 26 degrees, 30 minutes of Taurus, that's where it is right now, was feared as the most malefic star, which was rooted in the ancient fear of the feminine mysteries. But beneath the distortion lies the truth. So I'm going to share a picture of Medusa with you here. Let me get her up on the screen. Okay. Okay, so here she is. All right. All right. So Medusa was a Libyan serpent goddess, a guardian of ancient Gorgon wisdom. Her snakes were symbols of Kundalini, earth codes, and the spiral path of consciousness. In other traditions, she was the third aspect of the triple goddess of wisdom from Libya called Anatha. Athena, which was intellect, Metis, which is intuition, and Medusa, instinct. It was said that her gaze turned men to stone. In truth, she revealed what could not bear to be seen, because this occurred in the paradigm shift and the disempowerment and violation of the divine feminine. In the story, it depends on which version you have, but she was a priestess of Athena, and she was violated in Athena's temple by Poseidon. And Athena uh, took this very seriously, and she turned Medusa, who was her primary priestess of the Gorgons, um, her hair into serpents. And this was said to then, her look could turn men to stone. And ultimately, though, she was beheaded because even after she was beheaded, she could still turn men to stone. And her beheading was a metaphysical severing, a warning to women, seers, and healers to turn away from their inner knowing, because Medusa was the goddess of instinct in her form as a triple goddess, and in her service to Athena, and to her being a serpent goddess. The current activation of Algol is not a harbinger of destruction. It is the long prophesied return of the sacred serpent wisdom, veiled for millennia beneath fear, distortion, and patriarchal myth. This is a holy reclamation. The myth of Medusa, once weaponized to suppress feminine power, serpent wisdom, and ecstatic embodiment, is now being recoded in the collective field. What was demonized is revealed to be divine. And so we have the serpent and the lotus coming together with the Wesak Moon and the last activation of Algol. So it's a grounding coil of earth energy rising to meet the stillness of cosmic wisdom, of the cosmic wisdom of enlightenment of the lotus. It's an alchemy that bridges heaven and earth. The sacred feminine returns not only through compassion and stillness, but through the power of truth, the reclamation of body, voice, and wild knowing. It could be looked upon as a cosmic initiation, with the Kundalini life force rising out of the lotus of our own divinity. Okay. So that's that's what I feel like some of this star is about. It is about a holy reclamation and an initiation and a return of the power of the divine feminine through her serpent energy, which is the Kundalini, which is the life force, the power of the divine mother, as well as our DNA, the activation of our DNA, because it is also serpent-like. Okay. All right. Now we have the Mercury square Pluto, but I didn't point out in the chart that it's also opposite Black Moon Lilith. And so there might be some really difficult truths that may come to light during this time. And around sexual abuse would be one of them. And it's being discovered how many children were lost. Migrant children were lost as they crossed the border. And there is a real effort to locate them now. And it is believed that they are being trafficked. Okay. All right, so I feel like that is a really difficult truth that is coming up. But there could be some other really big truths that are coming up in your own life. And so now is the time to speak what you've long held back, but to speak it in a grounded way, not from trauma. Speak from the core of your heart of truth, from the womb of truth, from even lower than your heart, down in your sacral chakra, because you're channeling something ancient and fierce, but it comes with wisdom and grace, not just rage. When we come from a place of rage, we really don't accomplish anything except venting our own anger. There are other ways to release the rage so that you can then get to the truth and speak it. And know with a Pluto and Aquarius that your words have a collective impact. That's why it's so important what you say. What do you want to put out in the field? What are you trying to create? There are big truths coming up, things that need to be said, but they need to come from a place of truth and not just rage and anger. All right. Jupiter in Gemini squares the nodes of the moon. And Jupiter's challenge, like I talked about, the south node is in Virgo, which is very much about logic. The north node is about faith in Pisces. And Jupiter's challenge is to bridge logic and faith. Actually, I feel like Jupiter really is more the faith, and Pisces is more like an inner knowing, to go from logic to inner knowing. And what the bridge is faith. Okay. And to know that we are swimming in a field of all possibility and trusting the process while using discernment and critical thinking skills. Jupiter is also conjunct the belt of the stars of Orion. The belt stars of Orion, those three stars, they're called the pearls of Orion, and they align with the pyramids of Giza. And so whenever they show up, they often bring with it some Egyptian teachings. And also, when this star is prominent in one's chart, it can indicate a spiritual teachers, leaders, and prophets. Okay. They have their own galactic history, but I'm not, unless it's showing up in your own chart, I'm probably not going to talk about that tonight. We also have Chiron conjunct Eris, and Chiron is the wounded healer. Excuse me, in Aries, conjunct Eris in Aries. What's interesting is Eris is the sister of Aries. Aries was the masculine warrior, Eris was the feminine warrior. And of course, Eris lost her seat at the table. The feminine warrior lost her seat at the table, but she is re-emerging, and she is a disruptor of the status quo. And I feel like this is about healing deep wounds tied to your sense of self and reclaiming personal sovereignty. All right. Now we have Neptune that just moved into Aries at the end of March, just a really new energy, and it's conjunct Saturn and Pisces. Although Saturn will be moving into Aries on May 22nd. So in this, between now and the new moon, Saturn will have moved into Aries. So Neptune in Aries is very much about seeing the reality behind the illusion, waking up in the 3D dream to the truth of who we are, which is our waking up to our own divinity, and that this is an experience we are having, that we are all faces of Creator, but we are having this experience. And as we are able to do that, it brings us to new levels of awareness of who we are, which also allows us to be a witness, to step back from the drama and allows us to be the witness. It brings in synchronicities. Uranus also brings in synchronicities, following the breadcrumbs that spirit is leaving. And there are also new wisdom teachings pouring in from the cosmos. And I feel like, well, let me go on to conjunct Saturn. Okay, so conjunct Saturn in Pisces. As Saturn moves closer to Neptune, it forces Neptune to become more defined and focused in reality. That often results in disillusionment when you wake up and realize how far from the truth you may have wandered. So Saturn kind of brings in a reality check. But as old dreams and ideals collapse, new ones can be found and are better aligned with who you are and the life you want to create. And when these two planets come together, starting on May 22nd in Aries, it begins the birthing process of a new human consciousness and a new reality of conscious co-creation that is emerging. It is a new spiritual identity with like I said, some new wisdom teachings coming in, teaching us, helping us remember how to co-create the new reality with the new spiritual identity that is emerging. And to know that the new Earth ascension process is already started. This is just a pivotal acceleration point. Okay. And I want to close with this beautiful little saying. As the moon brightens and the veil thins, may you walk forward in your wholeness. The lotus and the serpent, the light and the flame, the wisdom and the power. And so it is. This is a very powerful month with Algol being activated, and later in the month, the Pleiades will be activated. We'll start a full year activation. And so the wisdom and the power, the light and the flame, the lotus and the serpent, they're all coming together. All right. Many blessings in the next month. And if you're interested in a reading, my contact information is in the description box. If you like this video, please check like and subscribe. And namaste to all.